2004, Grabinski gave heartfelt tribute to his loyal wife. 19 years after this railway worker slipped into a coma, he awoke to reveal his astonishing story. It was June 2007 when 65-year-old Polish national Jan Grabinski apparently woke up from a coma that he'd been in since 1988. The astonishing story made Grabinski a hot news item, covered around the globe. Headlines such as the Daily Telegraph's "Coma Man Wakes Up to New World After 19 Years" were typical. Newspapers and TV reports made much of the fact that this real-life story was strangely similar to the plot of a 2003 movie, Goodbye Lenin. In the film, a family in East Berlin decides to hide the fall of the Berlin Wall and East German communism from their aged pro-communist mother after she emerges from a coma in 1990. Most of the media stories warmed to this theme. Poland had changed a lot over the previous 2 decades. The BBC quoted a Polish TV station interview with Grabinski. "Now I see people on the streets with mobile phones, and there are so many goods in the shops it makes my head spin," he was reported as saying. Meanwhile, the Daily Telegraph quoted Grabinski as saying, "When I went into a coma, there was only tea and vinegar in the shops. Meat was rationed and huge petrol queues were everywhere." Now Grabinski had emerged from his coma into a land of relative plenty. Grabinski's story seemed to be that he'd been a railway worker before an accident involving a blow to the head sent him into a coma for 19 years. All those years, apparently, he'd had to depend on his faithful wife, Gertruda, to nurse him. Finally, he'd woken up, despite doctors initially saying he'd only live for 2 to 3 years. Speaking to Polsat television station, Gertruda said, "I cried a lot and I prayed a lot. Those who came to see us kept asking, when is he going to die? But he's not dead." Speaking to TVN 24, Grabinski gave heartfelt tribute to his loyal wife. "It was Gertruda that saved me and I'll never forget it." There were other fascinating aspects to Grabinski's amazing story. In 1988, when his coma started, he had 4 children. By the time of his apparent awakening in 2007, he had 11 grandchildren. And of course, post-communist Poland in 2007 was vastly different to 1988 Poland. In 1988, Poland was still under the rule of communist dictator Wojciech Gorzelski. The next year, elections saw democracy arrive in Poland. The country went on to join NATO in 1999. Then in 2004, Poland became a full member of the European Union. All of those developments would have seemed unthinkable in the Cold War days of 1988. However, this heartwarming good news story turned out to be just a little too perfect. It was the Guardian newspaper which decided to dig a little deeper, and it found that a few of the details didn't seem to completely add up. It wasn't that the story was made up, but some of the detail didn't seem to be 100% accurate. And the source of the Guardian's revelations partially debunking the news about Jan Grabinski? None other than Jan Grabinski himself. "I never said any of those things. I wasn't in a coma for 19 years. I only spoke to one journalist and what they wrote was not true. And every time the story was printed, new things emerged." Grabinski confirmed that he had indeed been involved in an accident back in 1988. But in the aftermath of the accident, the coma had lasted only 4 years, not 19. He had, however, been wheelchair-bound since the accident. He then went on to debunk the whole Goodbye Lenin angle of the story, the idea that he'd fallen into a coma in one world and woken up in a completely different one. "I saw all the things that they claimed I had not seen, although I could not always express myself. I saw the news on TV, so I was informed, and I also met my grandchildren," Grabinski told The Guardian. And confirmation of Grabinski's assertions about his condition came from his medic. Dr. Wojciech Przestrogowski said that although Jan had certainly been disabled over 19 years, he had not been in a full coma that whole time. The doctor confirmed that the coma had lasted only 4 years from the date of the original accident. Grabinski's wife Gertruda was also ready to back up her husband's version of events. She told The Guardian, "Jan wasn't in a coma. He understood everything that I said to him. At first he used his face to let me know whether he wanted anything to eat or drink. Later he spoke." Grabinski said that he had only spoken to one journalist. So who was it that started this story, which had spread around the world and been covered by everyone from the BBC to USA Today? It transpired that it had been a reporter from the local newspaper Gazeta Zaldowska. The Guardian spoke to Gazeta Zaldowska's editor-in-chief, Malgorzata Zerwinska. Obviously, not one to take any allegations of exaggeration and falsehood lying down, she declared, "It's not a lie, there are different kinds of coma." She added, "There's a kind of coma where people are unconscious and others where they wake up from time to time and then fall back into a coma. This was the case with Jan Grabinski." The editor also made the point that even if the coma only lasted 4 years, there had still been dramatic changes in Poland during that time. When Grabinski had his accident in 1988, Poland was a communist country. When he awoke 4 years later in 1992, democracy had prevailed. So the incredible story of Grabinski may not be quite as incredible as first reports in 2007 indicated, but it does seem true that he went into his coma when Polish communism was alive and well, and by the time he woke up, it was gone. So the goodbye Lenin parallels could still be considered valid. Perhaps the real hero of the story is Gertruda Grabinski. After all, she stuck by her stricken husband for 2 decades. After speaking to TVN 24, Gertruda said, "He was a living corpse. Now he can sit in his wheelchair and we have breakfast and coffee together." Please share this story with your friends below.